Hello and welcome to this video, which is looking at section 2.1.2 of the computing hardware area of the OCR Computing Specification, and in this video in particular we're going to be looking at a central processing unit. So OCR say that you need to be able to state the purpose of a CPU, describe the function of the CPU as fetching and executing instructions stored in memory, and explain how common characteristics of CPU such as clock speed, cache size and number of cores can affect their performance. So the purpose of the CPU is that it is the brain of the computer. It gets instructions from the memory and then puts it into the processor so it can do the instructions and then go furthermore with the output. So if you think back to the previous video where we've talked about what a computer system is, the processing part of every computer system in this case is the CPU. So the CPU uses a fetch, decode and execute cycle to be able to perform instructions on the computer. So in the fetch step, this involves retrieving an instruction from a memory address. The address of the instruction is stored in a register, which is a special area, and the register is called the program counter. After an instruction has been fetched, the program counter gets updated, so the CPU knows the address of the next instruction it has to fetch. If you think about loading up an operating system or even loading up a game on an Xbox, it's going to have multiple instructions which needs to take place. The program counter is where the instructions are stored. The decode step involves the CPU identifying the operation code, the opcode of the instruction. So basically what this is telling it to do is telling it to look at what the instruction is and then act upon something which it tells it to do. The execute part is where the control unit links the parts together of the CPU that are needed to carry out the instruction. So the CPU is a vastly complex piece of hardware which has different areas, different bits of application that it can be used for. So all in all, if we're looking at it, the CPU takes instructions from the memory and then makes it available and then allows it to be executed within the computer. CPU characteristics can include clock speed. So clock speed is the rate at which instructions are carried out. So if we think back to the fetch, decode, execute cycle, the clock speed is the rate of how quickly those instructions are being carried out, and it's measured in gigahertz. A gigahertz is a billion times. So for example, a 3 GHz processor means the internal clock ticks, it processes 3 billion times every second. The cache size is the memory buffer between the processor and the main memory. So if you think about it, it's like your favourites bar in Internet Explorer. All the favourite websites that you go onto, you click on favourites, add to favourites, so you can get to them often. That's exactly the same idea with cache memory. So if an instruction is used frequently, it gets put in the cache memory, so it's quicker for the processor to be able to find it and then be able to execute it. Finally, the number of cores. A core is a single processor which can fetch and decode instructions. Multiple core processors, multiple processors which can simultaneously fetch and execute different instructions. Each processor might not be a particularly fast one, but because you've got a large amount of them, the speed in which instructions are processed multiplies exponentially and can become really quick. Processor with 2 cores is a dual core processor. A processor with 3 cores is a triple core or tri-core, and a processor with 4 cores is called a quad core. There's multiple ones. There's hex cores, which is 6. There's 12 core processors, 18 core processors, however many processors you want to be in. The higher the number of cores, traditionally, the better the performance of the computer, but then it needs to take into account other areas such as the amount of RAM available to be able to do different things. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you're revising for your exams, good luck, and I'll see you again in a future video. Bye bye.